Hi friends, connecting and best struggle to everyone. In this section, we really need a new concept to generate fresh ideas for combating poverty within this. I am trying to create a new concept for the industrialization and development of countries. This concept will be related entrepreneurship in industry in the form of industrial entrepreneurship, which we definitely need. Even if industrial entrepreneurship has been created by others before, it's important for us to review it and raise awareness. To solve problems, we need to do new things, and with that, our mind new concept. The classification and transformation of entrepreneurship along with the financial resources it requires must also introduce it with a new concept. I believe it should be definitely as industrial finance. This and other new concepts will be frequently used terms in the industrialization management system. Unfortunately, I used Google Notebook LM again, even though the translation is inadequate. In some cases, it cannot match human intelligence and remains passive and inadequate, but it will probably improve over time. As I said, the previous video, I will continue to use it because my English is inadequate. Now I would like to share my new podcast with you. Enjoy listening.
Welcome back to the deep dive. We're here to cut through the noise, get you straight to the insights that will really matter. Today, we're tackling a pretty big question, one that lots of countries grapple with. How do you really achieve economic self-sufficiency? Build a solid industrial base that's more than just superficial activity. We mean genuine, deep-rooted industrial growth, the kind that builds lasting national strength.
Exactly. And what's fascinating here, it isn't just about tweaking a few policies. It's more like looking at a whole blueprint for transforming an economy. It's that crucial difference, isn't it, between just sort of doing business and strategically building a self-sustaining, productive economic engine.
Absolutely. So our mission today is a deep dive into some very specific, actionable ideas. We're talking industrial entrepreneurship and industrial finance, specifically looking at Turkey. Our insights are drawn from a recent discussion on IEM TV, that's the Institute for Economic Management's channel. They're known for really digging into policy debates, economic analysis. They really get into the weeds of tackling a nation's industrialization challenges.
Yeah, and it brings up a key question for anyone thinking about development, really. How does a country not just boost entrepreneurship in general, but specifically cultivate industrial entrepreneurs? And then, crucially, how do you get the whole financial system lined up to support that specific goal?
That's exactly what we want to unpack today. Think of this as a shortcut for you to grasp the nuances, and they can be complex, of fostering real industrial development. Now, while we're focusing on Turkey, these strategies, these perspectives, well, they offer a blueprint that could resonate way beyond Turkey's borders. For any of you curious about economic policy, about entrepreneurship, about, the real nuts and bolts of building an economy, okay, let's dive in.
Right. So to really get the proposed solutions, we should probably first look at what's already happening,
Mhm.
the existing landscape. Turkey, like a lot of countries trying to grow, already has state incentive programs, things designed to, stimulate the economy.
Right. We're talking about organizations like KOSGEB, that's the Small and Medium Enterprise Development Organization, and Dubitak, the Research Council. The idea is they support entrepreneurs, help cut down the current account deficit, balance things out regionally, and just quickly, for anyone unfamiliar, that current account deficit, it's basically a measure of imports versus exports. A big deficit means spending more abroad than you're earning, not great for national wealth or the currency. So on paper, these incentives sound good, right? Fostering innovation, growth across the board.
But, and this is a key insight from the IEM TV discussion, these traditional incentives, sometimes they just miss the mark. Especially for genuine industrialization, they use this really vivid example. An entrepreneur opens a natural gas shop. Now, okay, it meets a local need, sure, there's value in that. But from a national economic view, it does very little to reduce that current account deficit. Actually, if the gas is imported, it might even make it worse.
That example really does make you stop and think, doesn't it? Because it points to this basic problem. That kind of business, even if it's successful for the owner and serves local demand, it doesn't actually strengthen the nation's industrial core. It doesn't really contribute to manufacturing or high-value production or making things you can export. It's more about consumption, right?
Exactly. Consumption rather than creation.
And that difference for a country aiming for self-sufficiency is absolutely critical. It's like buying groceries versus building the farm to grow your own food.
Which leads us straight to the core idea here. The absolute need to define and then deliberately foster a specific type of entrepreneur, the industrial entrepreneur.
Yeah.
Making that distinction, separating them from just any entrepreneur, is seen as vital if you really want to encourage manufacturing and high-value production. It's about being strategic, not just letting things happen.
Okay, so if we need this specific type, this industrial entrepreneur, what actually sets them apart? What are the characteristics? Because it's clearly not just anyone with a business idea, right?
No, exactly. The discussion laid out a few key requirements. First off, education matters. You're looking for people with degrees in things like machine engineering, other engineering fields, maybe business, but with a real focus on industrial application, on making things. Applied understanding, not just theory.
Beyond the degree, they stressed practical global experience, the need to get real-world training, see how industrialization works abroad. Why is that international piece seen as so critical for building industry back home?
Well, because that's where you learn the cutting-edge stuff, right? The best practices, the latest tech, efficient ways of producing things directly from those already doing it well. See, industrialization isn't just about, putting up buildings. It's about adopting global standards of efficiency, innovation. That experience brings back know-how you just can't get at home if your own industrial base is still developing. It bridges that gap.
That makes total sense. You're not just learning what to do, but seeing how the best in the world do it. And it's not just about young go-getters either, is it? They really emphasize that these industrial entrepreneurs should be, well, a bit older, have market experience, a track record in management. Why the focus on maturity and experience? It kind of goes against that whole young disruptor story we hear sometimes.
It's about managing risk, plain and simple. The discussion pointed out failure rates for younger, less experienced ventures can be pretty high, especially with big, complex projects. Industrial projects, particularly manufacturing, that need serious capital, long timelines, complex management. So a seasoned entrepreneur brings not just market understanding, but also proven leadership, resilience. They've likely navigated tough times before. The idea is to significantly boost the success rate of these really important industrial ventures.
That's a really strong point. Ensuring a solid foundation for ventures that are, well, strategically important for the country. Which brings us to another fascinating idea, this foundational training. State-provided pre-entrepreneurship training. And this is where it got really interesting. They mentioned blacksmithing education for people interested in machinery. Blacksmithing at home sounds old-fashioned, like a guild system.
Yeah.
What's the thinking behind starting with something so fundamental?
It's about building that core hands-on feel for materials, for shaping things, for mechanical principles. Blacksmithing gives you that foundation. It's not about making everyone a blacksmith, obviously. It's about instilling a deep practical intuition for how things are made, how machines work. Then that basic training is built on. They get medium to high-level machinery training when they come back to Turkey. It's structured, a progressive path to make sure they have solid skills from the ground up, moving beyond just theory to, practical mastery.
Wow, that's quite an insight, understanding the craft before you scale it. And then linking it to foreign trade, the state would score people who do this training and also teach them about foreign trade, like understanding African markets if that's where their project is aimed. So it's not just how to make it, but where to sell it. What's the strategy behind this scoring and market focus?
The scoring is about encouraging a whole package. It's not enough just to produce. You need to sell it globally, compete. By building in that foreign trade knowledge, especially for specific markets, the state is basically making sure these ventures are export-focused right from the start. This hits that current account deficit problem directly, doesn't it? Because these entrepreneurs are trained to make things that earn foreign currency, not just things for the home market that might use imported parts.
Okay, this sounds less like just training people and more like building a whole structured ecosystem. Because the idea is to move past entrepreneurs just starting from absolute scratch. Instead, the ideal model is once they get industrialization approval, they receive ready-made projects. Now, ready-made projects. That phrase really jumps out. What does that actually look like? What's the big advantage there?
It's a huge advantage because it dramatically cuts down the risk and speeds everything up. Imagine getting a project where all that initial, really complex, time-consuming stuff is already done. So projects that are pre-researched, like, say, a mining project where the feasibility studies are complete. The financing's worked out and validated. And crucially, export plans, market connections. They're already set up. The entrepreneur isn't left trying to figure out that tricky, high-risk initial phase all alone.
So they step into something that's already vetted, partly de-risked, right from day one. That's massive, especially in complex industries where upfront costs and research can be huge barriers. And they wouldn't be alone then either, right? You mentioned ongoing support, mentors, partners, working step by step towards running it independently,
Yeah, like a guided apprenticeship for the whole venture.
ensuring long-term success.
Exactly. That mentor-partner model ensures that even an experienced entrepreneur gets expert guidance as they scale up and manage operations. It's a structured path designed to cut failure rates even more, making sure the investment in these ready-made projects actually leads to sustainable, long-term industrial capacity. It's collaborative. It's about fostering not just one success story, but growing a whole resilient industrial base.
This really highlights the state's role here. Very active, very central, isn't it? The incentive systems have to rigorously check everything. The project idea, the feasibility, the foreign trade angle. It's not just handing out cash. It's serious oversight. What's the real impact of that kind of rigor?
The impact is potentially huge. It means public money, state support goes only to projects that are genuinely viable, strategically important, and likely to succeed. It stops resources going to those superficial natural gas shop type things we talked about. The ideal path they described is an entrepreneur gets a machine project, gets the right training, learns the trade side, the target markets, understands the finance. It's all connected. And this systematic approach, by lowering risk and aligning projects with national goals, should directly create jobs in high-value areas. Critically, focusing on manufacturing and exports helps slash that current account deficit making things instead of importing and earning foreign cash. And by placing these projects strategically, you can help balance out the economy across different regions too.
It seems like a really strategic, phased approach to starting projects maybe domestically in cities that need industry, then expanding internationally, all guided by national, international, regional goals, a coherent plan.
Yeah, it's about building a whole economic architecture, not just isolated businesses. Which brings us neatly to the other side of the coin, industrial finance. You absolutely need it to make the industrial entrepreneurship part work. And this isn't just any old finance. It's a system specifically set up to incentivize and fund only industrial entrepreneurship.
Ah, okay. So it's not about broadly funding just any business. It's about channeling money with real precision, making sure it boosts industrial production, strategic manufacturing. What does it mean then for the whole finance system to be integrated with industry?
It means having a dedicated financial ecosystem, or at least a major part of it, that really understands and is geared towards industrial growth. Doesn't mean all finance has to be industrial, of course, but you need a strong, well-resourced part of the financial world focused on these specific ventures. And this system would work with the ready-made projects we discussed, the research export plans, the established systems. It's about totally aligning capital with that core productive capacity, making sure money flows exactly where it needs to build up that resilient industrial base.
So putting it all together, what's the big picture look like? It sounds like the grand vision is this robust, integrated system of industrialization management, bringing all the pieces together.
That's it, exactly. It integrates the structured entrepreneurship, the targeted training with those foundational skills, the guided project implementation to cut risk and speed things up, and the dedicated industrial finance to fuel it all. It's a holistic way of trying to build a truly industrialized economy, moving past just surface-level economic activity to create deep, resilient, productive power that can actually drive national self-sufficiency.
Wow. That was quite a deep dive into the nuts and bolts of national industrialization. Really fascinating. We've covered that critical need to identify and nurture industrial entrepreneurs, the really structured support system for project de-risking them, speeding them up, and the absolutely vital role of industrial finance in making it all happen. It's a systemic approach, isn't it? Not just piecemeal incentives, aiming to shift a nation from mostly consuming to truly creating.
Yeah, and ultimately what this whole framework highlights is that just having any economic activity isn't enough for national strength, not in the long run. You need strategic, targeted development that builds real, tangible capacity, which I think raises a good question for all of you listening. How might these ideas, these insights from Turkey's challenge, apply elsewhere, maybe even to your own work? shaping innovative projects.
It's a fantastic thought to leave everyone with. What are the fundamental shifts, maybe in thinking or policy, that are really needed to move from just doing business to actually building a resilient, productive economy? Maybe it's about focusing less on quick wins and more on those long-term structural investments. Something to ponder. We encourage you to do just that, and we'll catch you next time on The Deep Dive.